This episode of the TV Binges Pilot Roundtable is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. To get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
Hello and welcome back to the TVBinges.com Pilot Roundtable, a Southgate Media Group podcast. I'm Kyle Tremblay, the editor of TVBinges.com, and I'm joined as always by a fellow TV Binges writer. She's an animated warrior from the Isle of Zephyria. It's Olivia Richards. Hello.
Hey, I returned just in time for our first pilot of the fall season.
The fall season is upon us. Our long national nightmare known as summer is over. Where we have no TV shows, and now we are entering our even longer national nightmare known as pilot season, where 80% of the shows are bad.
Oh yeah, if I looked into next week, and we have a lot coming up.
Oh boy. Well, that'll be a lot of fun. But this week we only have one show, and it's previewing. And it is called Son of Zorn. It's a animated / live action comedy. And Olivia, what did you think?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I think we predicted when we talked about it for the preview just how insane it was going to be. So that definitely held. It was completely insane in that nothing that was happening should have worked. Mm-hmm. But it did work, and I think with this, there are just a few things that need to be tightened up to make it really, really good, but I think it's a good start.
Yeah, now this was we both agreed that the trailer for this one was really good. And this was actually my one pick. If people haven't listened to our previews, Olivia and I actually watched every single trailer and talked about all of them for all the network pilots, and it almost killed us.
Yep.
And then at the end, we both picked one show that we thought would be the biggest hit. And this was my pick, because I thought that this one would kind of capture a certain kind of comedy that people like. I think people are sort of ready for a new animated show. I think we're all ready to move on collectively as a society from Family Guy. And so this was my pick because the trailer was very, very funny, and it seems like it's got a really it's sort of smart and also silly. I didn't think this pilot was very good. That kind of shocked me. Most of the time, 80% of the time, when we're watching a show, I go in thinking it's going to be bad. And then 90% of that time, I'm right. And 10% of the time, it's actually good. This was the rare time when I went in thinking it would be good, and I didn't really like it. And I'm struggling to fully formulate why that is. But first, you tell me why did you like this? What worked for you about this? Because I could be swayed.
I think for me, just how fresh it is, because this isn't something that we've seen before, and certainly not a pilot that I would have thought would have aired on Fox. Mm-hmm. I think we had talked about this before. This seemed a lot more fitting to somewhere like Adult Swim, or even like Showtime or HBO would have been interesting. But the fact that it was picked up as a network comedy, and especially on Fox, makes it kind of stand out from all the others. I think there's a lot of talent on the show. You have Jason Sudeikis doing the voice of Zorn. You have Cheryl Hines playing the wife. You have Tim Meadows playing her kind of emasculated fiance. I think there's a lot there. And I think the only thing I struggled with in the pilot was both the pacing and kind of how the characters played off of each other and what their roles are going to be within this formula.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can both agree that Tim Meadows was the highlight of this pilot.
Oh, he was fantastic.
Tim Meadows was very, very funny in this pilot, and is a delightful character. The only thing I'll push back on is there is absolutely something unique about this pilot, and that's the sort of format of the show, mixing the animated side with the live action side, and the premise, the idea that this is a sort of He-Man type figure battling fantasy villains and creatures in a fantasy world, and then taking a plane to Orange County and dealing with the mundanities of everyday suburban life. That's unquestionably unique. But the comedic premise is actually, I think, very played out, which is this sort of manly man dad has a less than manly son and he's struggling to cope with that. That's a premise that we've seen a lot. That's a CBS premise. This idea, this show is centrally built around a sort of alpha male, headstrong guy who is having trouble, sort of like, it's like a supercharged version of like Home Improvement or something, like going back that far of like, this man's man who's having trouble coping with being a family man, and it's certainly a heightened version of that, and the fact that the man is animated adds a spin to it. But fundamentally, this is a show that we've seen a dozen times before in the last few years. Like this. I mean, it's going to be the same show as that. I think it's a CBS one, the Joel McHale show that's coming up that we previewed.
Oh my gosh!
It's going to be the same show as that, where it's a fish out of water. About a guy who's a real man and he's struggling to deal with the modern world. Like that's a very, very in vogue premise, and just because it's animated didn't get me past that. This felt to me not nearly as new or different as I thought it would, except in certain moments, which I'm sure we'll get to, where it did. But I guess deep down, my real issue is I don't think it really took advantage enough of the animated aspect of it, and I don't think it was like zany enough. I don't think it was wacky enough. I think that this played a little too close to just like a normal sitcom, which I understand is a lot of ways the joke, that you have this animated character who is very much in a traditional sitcom, but also like traditional sitcoms aren't that funny. And the stuff the animated character was saying, like, the jokes weren't good, by and large. And just because he's animated didn't really get me where I needed to be to appreciate this as a show or really make me laugh.
I think you kind of just hit the nail on the head with why I was struggling to, because like you had said before, we couldn't quite pinpoint what was missing or what wasn't there, because I wanted to enjoy watching it. I kind of went into it really looking forward to seeing it. And then I think like 5 or 10 minutes in, I kind of wasn't quite there anymore.
Yeah, it wasn't like unpleasant. It's certainly a pleasant show. I didn't mind watching it. I thought the 22 minutes runtime went pretty quick. It just, I guess based on, and maybe I'll talk about what I thought really worked, which is the scene at the end where he kills the bird.
Oh my god.
Which made me laugh out loud. It was the only time in this pilot that I actually laughed out loud. And I had seen that in the trailer and it still made me laugh. Like I knew it was coming and it still made me laugh. Where he very suddenly kills the bird that he got for his son as a present, and then the bird doesn't die and he has to kill it again. And that made me think that's dumb humor, first of all. It's a dumb joke. It's the dumbest joke of the pilot. But it's also the one that made me laugh. And I feel like the show sort of sold me a bill of goods based on the trailer that it was going to be more Archer-like. Like, I kind of thought this was going to be Archer, which is all the things that you were talking about, where it's like Archer could be a Showtime show. It's an FX show as it stands, but it could be like HBO, Showtime. It's really edgy. It's really raunchy. It's very often like distasteful, but in a like truly hilarious way. I thought this was going to be that. And it was a lot closer to, like I said, like Home Improvement. Like it was a lot closer to like, and I watched a lot of Home Improvement, but it's a lot closer to sort of a traditional family sitcom. And it wasn't an especially good one. And I kind of wish it would just lean into the sort of insanity of it all a little bit more. Like get a little bit more bold and dirty and all the things that I kind of thought it would be based on the clips from the trailer.
I definitely agree with that. And I think the one scene that stood out for me in a way that I didn't think it was going to was the scenes he had at the office.
Oh, yes.
With his boss, because the way that the two played off of each other was fantastic. And when she sits him down and he has to define what compassion is,
yeah,
and he's just throwing out all these wrong answers, and, she's trying to rein him in so that he can fit into this corporate atmosphere where, he's wearing a button-down shirt and a tie tucked into his underwear. The whole thing is so ridiculous. And if they could have more of that, like you had said, just play up how insane the entire situation is.
Well, and I loved the boss character too. I thought she was awesome. I don't know the actress's name, but I thought she was really good. And that also underscores the fact that this is, at least based on the pilot, a traditional sitcom. And in a traditional sitcom, a traditional single cam sitcom, I should say, the winning formula that sitcoms use, from The Office to Parks and Rec, is for the characters on the fringes to deliver the big laughs, and for the central character to sort of be the anchor. And I thought that in those scenes where you have Zorn interacting with this boss woman, who also was very, like, understanding of him in a way that no other character was in this pilot.
Right.
And again, if we're talking about this being a traditional sitcom, I don't want every character to be, like, completely dismissive and hateful towards the main character. That would have been fine if this was Archer and everyone's like, everything's a goofy goof, but it's like, it's not being played like that. They are trying to play like serious moments and like sympathetic moments. And if that's the case, then I kind of don't want to see the main character just get raked through the mud for 30 minutes. And so, like, I liked that the boss was giving him a lot of slack and like trying to work with him. But also while still being sort of deadpan and sort of aghast at, like, when he chops the table in half.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like, that worked. And I thought the ridiculous bird scene at the end worked. But I thought in the middle there was a lot of just sort of very traditional sitcom beats that I could have gotten on like a dozen pilots this fall that weren't necessarily made funnier by the presence of an animated Jason Sudeikis character.
I definitely see that. And I think, again, you kind of hit the nail on the head of what wasn't quite working going into it, now that we've actually seen the pilot versus what we saw from the trailer.
Right. Yeah, because the trailer was just jokey jokes. The trailer was just wall-to-wall jokes, which made me think it was Archer, which had me very excited about this show. And I'm not even like the world's biggest Archer fan, but it's just like that kind of tone seems perfect for this show. It seems perfect for a show about He-Man, a show that, because again, Archer is another show about a sort of alpha male who struggles to cope, and that tone fits perfectly because you are just constantly laughing at his ridiculousness. And I think that when you try to play it a little more seriously and sympathetically, you run into the trouble that most sitcoms run into, which is that I don't really like this guy, and if you're asking me to take him seriously, that's really hard to do. And so yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot of potential here. Like you said, the cast is really good. There were funny beats of this pilot. It did make me laugh at the one point. It just there is a good show here, a really good show, and I wonder if they're gonna find it. Is my question.
Definitely, and I'm really hoping, because I think, like you said, there is a lot going on here and a lot of potential to work with, and I would hate to say or see it go, because it kind of falls into the pitfall that a lot of other sitcoms do.
Yeah, right. It reminds me of, in a weird way, it reminds me of like the Michael J. Fox show from a few years back on NBC, where it had like a big premiere and everyone was excited for it, but then it was just too sort of generic. Mm-hmm. And everyone was rooting for him and was rooting for the show, but just the show itself was nothing special, and it eventually got canceled. And that's what my worry is here, is that we have a show that a lot of people are very excited for. And I'm just worried that if this one doesn't kind of find itself quickly, that excitement's going to go away real fast. It's going to be like Pokemon Go. Just no one will be playing anymore.
Yeah, don't tell Ricky that.
Of course. But that excitement is present in the ratings of this pilot, which it did a 2.14 in the demo with 6.3 million viewers, making it the most watched show, non-football division, on Sunday night. For comparison, The Simpsons, which aired right after it, new episode, did a 1.4 in the demo. So it did, some 50-60% better than The Simpsons. So this did not a monster number, but a very strong premiere, I would say.
Yeah.
And I'm curious how that's going to hold when the show this was like a sneak peek, I think. So I'm interested how that's going to go, especially if the show doesn't quite find itself. So Olivia, do you think this one's going to be canceled quickly, make it through the season, or renewed for next season? I
think it's definitely going to make it through the first season. Whether it's going to be renewed is the question.
I completely agree with that. I think it's still up in the air on renewal. Obviously, very early. I think those ratings mean it's of no risk of early cancellation, at least in the immediate future. So we'll just have to see how it goes. But right now, I think it's safely going to make it through the season. We'll just see how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your final verdict, thumbs up or thumbs down on Son of Zorn?
I am giving this a tentative thumbs up.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to see it succeed. I don't want to see it fail.
Me too. And I'm going to agree with you. This is a tentative thumbs up that I was ready to give an enthusiastic thumbs up to. It didn't quite work for me, but I hope it will work in the future. It's one that I'll certainly revisit and hopefully be taken with it then.
Absolutely.
Yes, so you've been listening to the Pilot Roundtable, a TVBinges.com and Southgate Media Group production. You can listen to all of our episodes on iTunes, where you can rate and review us. We'd appreciate that. Or find us at southgatemediagroup.com. Follow Olivia on Twitter at RichardsOlivia, and me on Twitter at KyleLovesTV. Until next time.